wearing an elegant, expensive suit with a perfect face, eyes that see through the world, and full, pink lips. Luc Vitam, a great god in the wine-tasting world, recognized by the WSA, the world's most prestigious wine and spirits association. Therefore, Luc Vitam is granted the right to classify and price wines. Additionally, he is the youngest member in the history of the WSA. With a cold demeanor, noble bearing, professionalism, and exceptional talent, his fans see him as a perfect man straight out of a comic book. A talented and handsome god like Vitam naturally has a quirky personality. A perfectionist, with a phobia of dirt, and no compassion while working. Contrary to the godly splendor, Habat Tai is a poor fashionista. A dull girl, literally, who has no sense of taste. Whether she eats delicious food or drinks fine wine, she feels nothing. Therefore, to make the most of this strange disease, she uses it to bet on drinking. Easily defeating big, tough guys to win huge sums of money. That's life, earning money just to spend it, when holding money means paying it to creditors. And one fateful evening, she regains her sense of taste. On her way home, her precious keepsake accidentally gets caught on the wine-tasting god's car. She frantically chases after him. Seeing someone tailing him, he speeds up instead of slowing down. She takes a shortcut, but her 2 feet can't match the speed of a 4-wheeled vehicle. With years of experience throwing flash grenades in screen games, she successfully throws her phone into his car's rearview mirror. God Luke stops the car, gets out, and sees her item stuck in his mirror. However, he is very stubborn and doesn't want to return it. Habat Tai angrily steps on his foot. Finally, she gets the glass bottle, but as she is gloating, a truck rushes towards her. Seeing danger, he pulls Bat Tai back despite everything. The scene suddenly slows down like a police station movie, and they lose their first kiss. After that, God Luke keeps complaining about being nauseated because of disgust. But perhaps what God Luke didn't expect is that this seemingly trivial encounter would completely change his fate. Later, he is invited to a wine-tasting event. Fans crowd around God Luke. On the other side, Bat Tai is also running some drinking bets. At the event, he only needs to name 3 fine wines in 1 minute, to save the girl trapped in the water tank. This is usually a very simple task for the wine-tasting god. However, he doesn't realize that the kiss has caused him to lose his sense of taste. He can easily guess the first 2 wines by their color. But when it comes to the 3rd wine, he suddenly finds it difficult. Unable to smell, the wine's lack of flavor leaves him very confused. The host, seeing the trouble, quickly prepares an axe to break the tank and save the girl. The audience starts murmuring, but his vast wine-tasting experience helps him. Finally, he chooses the correct answer and pulls out the Excalibur sword in a tense moment. When he gets home, he immediately pours a bottle of wine into his mouth. Still feeling nothing, he furiously breaks all the precious wine bottles nearby. Meanwhile, Habat Tai is happily devouring large bites of food like a king. Her friend sitting beside her is astonished as she devours food despite losing 3 bets. Bat Tai quickly explains that she had an epiphany. After years of losing her sense of taste, it finally returned. So today she must eat her fill, in case she loses it again tomorrow. The next morning, wanting to investigate the cause, she goes to the hospital for a checkup. Unexpectedly, God Luke is also there for an appointment and overhears her conversation with the doctor. He says nothing but rushes in, pulling her outside and giving her a bottle of water to drink, but she refuses. Knowing what to do, he uses money to decide, saying his car's mirror is worth at least 5 cents. She snaps out of it and, after drinking, can miraculously identify the exact bitterness of 70% or 20% of the wine. He realizes this must be his lost sense of taste, making him lose control. Bat Tai thinks he is talking about the kiss, not expecting this to remind him of the previous incident. He immediately pulls her in for a kiss to test if it is true, loving how he knows he is handsome and acts decisively. Habat Tai pushes Luc Vitam away, angrily shouting at him, only to be mocked for being delusional. Saying she is short, stupid, and not interesting to him at all. He is completely uninterested. After that, he takes a sip of wine, revealing a satisfied and joyful expression. His sense of taste has indeed returned. At this moment, he suddenly has a vision around him. It turns out these are memories of his taste when Bat Tai used it, all junk food and greasy noodles. He angrily questions her for using his sense of taste to eat junk food. Arrogantly, he tells her not to get addicted to his kisses. Bat Tai gives him 2 slaps to regain her dignity and walks away without saying goodbye. Thinking everything is okay, but at home, he loses his sense of taste again. The next day, he has to evaluate wine, but without taste, his career is over. Having no other choice, he contacts the police to get her contact information. He says he wants to hire her temporarily to maintain it for him until needed. She calls him crazy and walks away without looking back, but he says she can name her price to rent her taste. His words sound so slay. Habat Tai names a high price. If he can pay, she will help him. Before leaving, she says, anyone who doesn't sign is a dog. Early the next morning, he brings the contract to her house. She thought he was joking, but he meant it. If they cannot exchange back their senses, he must ensure his life and career are unaffected. So he decides to keep her by his side until he retires at 53. By then, eating porridge daily, he won't need his taste. Ha Bat Tai feels desperate, thinking her life is ruined. But the thought of monthly loan payments is even worse. Deciding to sign, suddenly 3 to 4 men burst in. She smiles innocently. What brings you here? The man called Brother Duke is her creditor. He called her but got no answer, so he came personally to collect his debt. Unable to get the money, they start smashing things in the house. Luke Vitam can't stand it anymore. He tells them to stop, asking how much she owes. The leader says it's a large amount, which she confirms. Finally, he pays off her debt, making her officially his. Then he takes her to the winery, asking her to stay by his side when Mr. Ma turns away. Although reluctant, she has accepted his money. Having no choice, as he was about to kiss her, she regretted it and wanted to cancel the contract. He didn't give her a chance to speak and kissed her forcefully. She was shocked by his actions and immediately pushed him away, giving him a thunderous slap. After testing all the wine, he told Mr. Ma to discard all of batch 92, because a luxury wine appraiser has such authority. For several days, Luke Vitam tried to understand the rule behind their taste exchange. The first time was at the hospital gate, the second at the winery. Both times his taste disappeared after about an hour. Meanwhile, Ha Bat Tai kept wondering why he had so much money. Moreover, he often spent it extravagantly. So how much was his sense of taste worth? He said she was like grass by the roadside, unable to reach the clouds. They decided to recreate the circumstances of their meeting. Bottle after bottle, they drank. But after 40 minutes, their tastes switched back and they realized. Each kiss shortened the time their tastes were exchanged by 10 minutes. So before they could fully swap back their senses, they only had 3 opportunities left. She couldn't believe such a strange thing existed. That each time the exchange reduced by exactly 10 minutes, as if even the heavens had OCD. On TV, she saw a gourmet guessing show where the winner would receive a large prize. Her mind gears up for money. If she has a great sense of taste, it can't be wasted. When he calls her, everything seems fine on the other end, very fine indeed. She has to lie that she's busy outside. He asks her to meet him at 10 p.m. and emphasizes not to be late. She makes it to the finals but doesn't win. Feeling very sad, she goes to drink away her sorrows. She says she's fine, but her face shows sadness. If Luke Vitam knew she was here eating lamb, he would lose control. Luke Vitam has been waiting for her for a long time without seeing her. She realizes she's late and hurriedly grabs her bag and runs. At the cafe, the staff says he has already left. She calls but no one answers. She texts but he doesn't reply. After a while, she musters up the courage to call again. Finally, he answers and says apologizing is useless. Being a wine-tasting expert with a spirit of agreement without elasticity, he wants to add a few terms, and if she doesn't agree, he won't pay her anymore. The next morning, she wakes up from a dream to find Luke in her house. For some reason, her father keeps siding with him. She thinks her father has been brainwashed by him. She asks him to talk outside, and he says she dares to use her taste to make money outside. It seems she is not satisfied with her salary and doesn't like working for him. Then let the creditor talk to a debtor like her. Thinking of that face scares her, and she hurriedly explains. I just want to repay the debt I owe you as soon as possible. He says she must get his permission to use his taste in the future. Moreover, he wants to sign a protection contract with her, extending the working hours by an additional 8 hours. She protests, saying that it's no different from being his slave. That's why people say, stay away from debt, folks. After that, she moves in with Luke Vitam. As the owner of the house, he wants to emphasize a few things with her. First, no noise. Second, no eating anywhere outside the kitchen. Third, water the flowers every day. Lastly, and most importantly, she must obey him in everything. Looking at the new luxurious room, she tiredly collapses on the bed and sighs. Originally, she thought she could fulfill the duties of an ordinary housekeeper, but life pushed her to madness. But when Luke Vitam wakes up, he sees that this is no longer his home. One night of her staying here has turned it into a mess. He angrily goes to Ha Bat Tai's room to deal with her. Now, do you want to face the law, or will you be caught by the hawk? Ha Bat Tai innocently explains that she had insomnia last night and went to find him to chat. But seeing him asleep, she didn't want to wake him, so she ate all the food herself. Shamelessly, she even said, consider it my treat, but if you want to pay, I still have the receipt. Love how she eats and asks others to pay. Luke Vitam is so angered by her that he turns pale, but since he needs her, he can only quietly leave. She quickly goes to clean up the living room under his supervision. She wants to hit him but can't, she must endure. Patience is required to earn money. He says she can't eat spicy food anymore. I hired you to enjoy yourself. They have only 3 opportunities to switch tastes, but his work is abundant. He wants her to fully cooperate with him, showing her many jars of food and asking her to taste them. The two enter the memory of taste. The sweet version is divided by sweetness levels. There is fruit sugar, glucose, maltose, and cane sugar. Different ingredients produce different products. Thanks to various processing methods, there are already many types of sugar, not to mention other complex ingredients. Speaking of methods, there are no shortcuts except to memorize it yourself. He tells her to memorize everything first. In the evening, Luke Vitam dresses neatly to meet a partner. Everything is perfect, and even the pimple on his face becomes a highlight. She is delighted to see him going out. The person he's meeting today is Mia. When she mentions Mok Xian Fuang's challenge, he interrupts. If you came to convince me to participate, then let's not eat this meal. He doesn't know that on the other side, Ha Bat Tai is also meeting a senior in the next room. Luke Vitam suddenly hears someone mention him. Both turn toward the voice. She dares to badmouth him, saying he's a jinx and that her life has been difficult since meeting him. Although his IQ is above average, his EQ is so low it infuriates people. Moreover, his entire body exudes a foolish aura. Hearing this, he loses control. Knowing exactly who's badmouthing him, he immediately stands up, opens the next room's door, and sees her. He asks the man inside who he is and what his relationship with her is. She quickly closes the door and quietly begs him to give her some face. Mia beside him tries to hold back her laughter. Ha Bat Tai plans to run away but is called back by Vitam. Ha Bat Tai reluctantly introduces the man as her senior, Dike Bak Dao. Feeling awkward, she excuses herself, saying she has to go home and study, and asks him to take her home. As the clouds drift in the evening sky, he says he'll add a clause that during the contract, she absolutely cannot date. She angrily says no girl would be blind enough to fall for him. He boasts that he's handsome and comes with a user manual. Girls lining up for him from gusto from north to south. Unlike her, who supposedly is naturally beautiful, but no Saigon guy stands a chance with her. But which man would even want her? Back home, he irritably blocks her from seeing the door code. She rushes in, but the house is dark. Ha Bat Tai is afraid of the dark and quickly jumps onto him. He is too annoyed to speak, letting her cling to him. When he turns on the lights, she immediately lets go. She always wonders what the relationship between Luke Vitam and his father is. How could anyone trap their own child? At the wine tasting competition, many reporters and fans arrive early to live stream. She is talking with a friend when he suddenly opens the door and pushes her against the wall. About to swap tastes again, Ha Bat Tai tries to escape, but he aggressively pulls her back and kisses her. Ha Bat Tai is terrified by his kiss, so she bites his lip to make him release her. He scolds her, asking if she still wants to work if she refuses. She says, dealing with a perverted rogue like him, what better way is there? Though their tastes have swapped back, in the next competition, it seems like an easy game as he performs. Reporters eagerly flock to them as soon as they appear in all their glory. Luke Vitam steps onto the stage amid the cheers and shouts of all the fans. At the center of the stage is none other than the competitor Mok Xian Fuang. This competition has cost him a great deal. At first, he excels with ease, but when he tastes the last glass of wine, he frowns with difficulty. While he's hesitating over the wine's type, the opponent writes down the correct answer, leaving him with an incredulous look on his face as he realizes he's lost. Desperate, he is helped out of the competition hall by Ha Bat Tai. Losing for the first time disappoints many fans, who even loudly scold him. Fortunately, she is always by his side. When they get home, she says that someone with a sharp tongue, hot temper, and arrogant attitude like him was bound to lose sooner or later. Luke Vitam, deeply affected, can't hold back and shouts, I knew it, you're just like everyone else, hoping I'd fail. She can't stand his temper any longer. Fine, I'll leave now, and anyone who doesn't go is a dog. She speaks arrogantly, but after packing her things and preparing to say goodbye, no one responds. Feeling something is wrong, Ha Bat Tai rushes downstairs. She finds him drunk and unconscious, lying on the floor asleep. Worried he'll catch a cold, she tries to move him to the sofa, but she's not strong enough. As she goes to get a blanket, he grabs her, begging her not to leave. Seeing him so pitiful, she decides not to pull away and stays. The next morning, he staggers into the kitchen to drink, and she has never seen her wine-tasting idol like this. The TV broadcasts the latest news. Famous magazines and contracts have all announced their cancellation with him. Seeing this, she quickly turns off the TV, but his expression is indifferent. She sits across from him, apologizing, saying maybe it's her fault for not preserving his taste buds well, so he shouldn't blame himself too much. She didn't think he'd be this sad. Remembering last night, when he cried like a child, she wanted to leave but knew now wasn't the time. Seeing him so despairing, she doesn't understand. It's just one loss, after all. Does he really need to be like this? She advises him to cheer up, losing to a hiccup. Where does his pride come from? He doesn't care about what she says and continues pouring himself another drink. She snatches the glass from him and tells him to give himself a chance. He doesn't need her pity and insists on kicking her out. No matter what he said, she would not leave. After saying this, she took the wine away, not letting him drink anymore. Ha Bat Tai stayed by his side without leaving, worried about him. Luke Vi Tam rushed out without finishing brushing her teeth to stop him. Otherwise, the kitchen would have caught fire. Even the orchid he loved the most was given wine instead of water. She hurriedly ran over to snatch the wine bottle. The news was broadcasting about a man named Lu Lunong, who was his father. Remembering how, even when her mother was seriously ill, she still tried to manage the Luke family's wine business, made him even more resentful. When his father called to check on her, she was fine, but Luke Vi Tam could only say he was very distraught. She heard something breaking upstairs and quickly hung up to check. She found him truly insane, drinking first thing in the morning. Ignoring her, he took the car keys to visit his mother's grave. Concerned Luke Vi Tam might face trouble, she suggested that she take him. Knowing that he wanted to visit his mother's grave, she would let him go. The person next to them coldly stated it was her choice. After placing flowers on the grave and reminiscing about her days alive, he returned to the car to find her asleep. He knocked on the door until she woke up. On the way back, Ha Bat Tai called, asking if she was free for a meal the next day. Seeing Luke Vi Tam like that, she hesitated to leave and postponed the invitation. That evening, her best friend Hatch Dung warned her about Luke Vi Tam. Upon hearing this, she immediately sat up, focused on listening. He discovered a very strange issue and asked her to meet him the next day. The next day, he introduced her to an important figure named Ha Pham, who was investigating. They found out that someone was trying to ruin Luke Vi Tam's reputation, but he said it was no longer just that. They wanted to drive him out of the wine-tasting world. She praised Hatch Dung for finding such a timely expert. She asked Ha Pham to send her a copy so she could show it to Luke Vi Tam. But as a fellow fan of Luke Vi Tam, knowing she lived with their idol, Ha Pham wanted to deliver it personally. She only thought about how scary it would be if all three of them got kicked out of the house. But for the future livelihood of her hot-tempered brother, she had to take the risk. After reviewing the data, he still didn't cheer up at all. Losing was losing, talking more wouldn't change the result. Hearing these words, even a loyal fan like Ha Pham got angry and tried to reason with him. In his heart, he didn't really care about the tampering with the last glass of wine, but rather the conspiracy behind it. Fed up with his daily drinking, she confronted him about its benefits. Annoyed, she grabbed the glass of wine and drank it herself. Then she took him hiking to change the atmosphere. Seeing her eat heartily, he reminded her about his taste. He refused to eat such carelessly prepared food. She mentioned she used to have a sense of taste too, but as a child, she fell into a wine vat while playing at her father's winery. After she woke up, she had lost her sense of taste. She thought he would comfort her, but instead, he mocked her, leaving her surprised. No wonder her current IQ was so worrying, he teased. As they walked along the beach, she taught him how to taste the saltiness of the sea, even making funny faces to cheer him up. Finally, her efforts paid off. The cold god who considered himself the center of the universe finally smiled brightly like the Luke Vi Tam she once knew. That day, her senior called to invite her to dinner. Ha Bat Tai happily accepted, saying she was enjoying the moment. He mentioned he hadn't returned to school for a long time. They planned to have dinner there the next day. She was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. The next morning, Luke Vi Tam woke up to find a note she had left behind. He remembered a small, pretty girl who was bullied by her friends and left soaking wet. Fortunately, a senior came to teach those bullies a lesson. Since then, she had been determined to be loyal to him. Back then, she wrote on the desk, asking if her senior liked her, but he misunderstood and thought she wanted dried plums. Ha Bat Tai accepted the jar of candy quietly. She was busy reminiscing about her youth with the boy she once admired and didn't notice her phone. Luke Vi at home was anxious, calling her but receiving no answer, and angrily put the phone down. When a call came through, he thought it was her but it wasn't. He arranged to meet Mok Xian Fuang, suggesting a rematch. If he lost, the Minus Winery would belong to the opponent, but if he won, he would regain the Rose Winery. The two shook hands, agreeing to the upcoming rematch. When he got home, he saw the two of them being affectionate at his doorstep. He was a bit angry and didn't show his senior any respect. To make amends, she quickly made him a glass of orange juice. He coldly put down the newspaper, asking if she had memorized the 7 taste domains. She nodded understandingly. The next morning, as soon as the sun rose, Luke Vi Tam woke her up very early. He placed 5 glasses of water on the table, asking her to taste them while blindfolded. Her performance was nearly perfect. She happily asked, "Am I very good? Shouldn't I get some reward?" He only said she shouldn't be too proud and should give up the idea of asking for leave. He even called Ha Pham over to supervise and push her to review his previous competition materials together. After that, he had to go out to meet Mia. He wanted to hire her as a special taste training expert, willing to pay a high price, but she didn't need the money. He needed her support desperately for the upcoming encounter with Mok Xian-Fuang. Winning against him was inevitable, but what he wanted was a perfect victory. At that moment, people at the nearby table were discussing him. The girl said that with Luke Vitam's terrible personality, no one could tolerate him. With his recent failure, it was like good rewarded and evil punished. Ha Bat Tai wondered why he trusted a die-hard fan like Ha Fam. Wasn't it just the other day he drove him away? He winked at her, saying maybe that was his charm. When he got home, he questioned her senior about his relationship with Mia. Then he asked if he was really that annoying. Her face immediately showed that it was true. After investigating, they discovered Mok Xian-Fuang was from Jiangsu, and his ancestors were from a scholarly family. His parents were in France conducting academic research. Before middle school, he studied in China, then went to France with his parents. For some reason, he didn't become a scholar like them. Instead, he started making wine, and strangely, he had never joined any wine associations. There were no records of him studying any wine-related majors. In the footage, they also noticed his evaluation speed was unusually consistent. Time was pressing, so she had to taste 20 bottles of wine a day. If this continued, her stomach would soon have problems. He suggested she spit out the wine after tasting each sip. She thought it was too wasteful, and seeing her drink the wine, he couldn't help but comment. He told her to drink the wine, not to fight it. He taught her that observing the color of the wine could reveal a lot. She listened attentively to his lessons, feeling it was harder than distinguishing lipstick colors. The scent was also a gateway to understanding each wine, and she mimicked him smelling the wine. Doing so brought their faces just a few centimeters apart. Their eyes met, both feeling awkward, and even I, watching, felt embarrassed. After tasting the wine, she detected black pepper and found it strange to have that in wine. He explained that each type of wine has its own unique flavor. He resented Dike Bak Dao for intervening in Mia's brother's discipline. Today he brought people to disturb the bar but ended up being beaten badly. Mia hurried to the bar to see her brother already subdued by him. Her brother complained that he was hit, only to be scolded by her. He left angrily with his men, and during the official test, Ha Bat Tai did quite well. Seeing her eager expression, he couldn't help but smile. Outwardly, he said that his fine wines were indeed being wasted by her. She thought that if she had worked this hard for her college entrance exams, she would have peaked by now. Seeing her looking tired, he thought for a moment and finally decided to give her a day off tomorrow. At night, she tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Thinking about their close morning scene gave her a strange feeling. She then received a call from her senior, asking to meet at the old place at 8 a.m. It turned out he had planned a surprise birthday celebration for her, and they played various games in the park. Unexpectedly, she was confessed to by her senior with a fancy iPhone, and she was enchanted by how rich guys confessed. At home, Luke Vitam and her best friend were also preparing to decorate for her birthday party. Unfortunately, 7 years ago, when she wanted to confess to him, he had avoided her. She hesitated, but in the end, did not accept his confession. What he did for her today and his words moved her greatly. She admitted that she once had feelings for him, but now she couldn't accept it. She told the story of her taste being exchanged with Luke Vitam. He found it laughable, thinking such a bizarre thing couldn't be true. Meanwhile, he accidentally broke her most cherished glass bottle. Seeing this, Hatchdung knew things were going wrong. She returned very late, and they both waited impatiently. Her slight intoxication made him uncomfortable, and she lost interest in the birthday celebration. Ha Bat Tai found the broken commemorative glass bottle in the trash. She questioned Vitam about what he had done with her things, not understanding their importance. Using an attitude as if nothing major had happened. Saying that, she searched through the trash, ignoring her bleeding hands. He stopped her, saying he would just get her a new one. Ha Bat Tai, even more furious, grabbed her coat and stormed out. That night, Luke Vitam stayed up all night trying to fix her item, but she didn't come home. Hatchdung realized that he seemed to like her best friend already, encouraging him to compete for her love with the senior. Luke Vitam, with a burning heart, went directly to the other man's bar. Accidentally discovering his secret, he warned him not to harm Ha Bat Tai or he wouldn't let him off. Her best friend finally got through to her, saying Vitam was looking for her everywhere. Saying this time she was a bit too much. If she really didn't want to, she should cancel the contract quickly. Money wasn't an issue, but they needed to find another way. She hadn't thought it through yet. Saying she would consider it more, her senior came to her house and saw the jars of wine around. He remembered his own home where his father had once taken the secret jar of wine. And from then on went missing, plunging his family into a tragic situation. He carried that grudge in his heart because of it. He almost couldn't control himself and grabbed a knife, wanting to take revenge right then. Fortunately, Ha Bat Tai told him not to cut the melon anymore, helping him regain control and calm down. Luke Vitam also came to her house. and the two men fought over one girl just as her father came out. Seeing this scene, they thought they were playing tug-of-war. So she wanted to be the referee for them. She pulled him aside to talk. He orders her to go home with him, but she bluntly refuses. He calls her stupid, saying she doesn't use her brain to think, but someone still thick-skinnedly stays at her house for dinner. Suddenly, he pulls her outside wanting to talk just because he couldn't taste the food during dinner. He is born competitive, he can't stand losing. Knowing what he intends to do, she tries to escape but fails. In the end, he kisses her until her face turns red. Someone regains their sense of taste and aggressively asks her father for permission to leave with her due to urgent business. On the way, she tells him he's childish for kissing someone randomly to show off in front of seniors. Is that so? He calmly says. Being praised by her father, he gives her the jar he repaired. Ha Bat Tai sees he's good and forgives him. There's not much time left until the match, but they still need a long time to guess the correct answer. They have to increase efficiency by 50%, but it's unrealistic, so they have to write faster. He smiles, jokingly saying he didn't expect her stubbornness to help at such a crucial moment. Then he messes up her hair to tease her. She jumps on his back, apologizing to the girl while he's distracted. The two start exercising. She intentionally makes it hard for him as revenge for bullying her before. She says she's a bit thirsty, so he invites her to drink. Who would have thought he would take her to a senior's bar? She complicates things for him in front of her. She asks if he doesn't plan to let her live in peace. He replies that this is to prevent his taste from having a strange smell. Luke Vi Tam takes her to witness how he was secretly photographed. However, the senior had already cleaned up the scene. He intends to help her see the senior's true face, but she criticizes him for always thinking he's right. If it weren't for Dike Bak Dao, there wouldn't be today. No matter what his intentions were, she endured it. He's extremely angry, eyes red, and turns to leave. She goes home and calls her best friend to complain. Everything becomes a tangled mess. She doesn't know what to do. Luke Vi Tam doesn't allow her to meet the senior, so wherever she goes, he follows her closely. She has no choice but to ask her best friend to quickly swap clothes with her and then sneak away. Seeing her friend's nose, she doesn't care about dignity and pokes and touches it a bit. Hak Dung, afraid he might find out, reminds her. She tells him not to worry, she has a plan. Before leaving, she sticks her tongue out at him, saying she wasn't afraid of anything from grades 1 to 5, let alone someone like him. Anxious, he checks the women's restroom when she doesn't return to the table. Others think he's a pervert, leaving him embarrassed and sleepless. Her friend, dressed in her clothes, suddenly appears, and he's surprised and steps back. Thinking she had escaped, she didn't expect him to chase her to the bar, scolding her for drinking before tomorrow's match. Seeing the broken keepsake bottle she still keeps, he says he'll give her another one, and Vi Tam realizes that the item was given by that jerk. He helplessly drinks the whole bottle of wine and accidentally breaks it. This wine bottle is very meaningful to the senior, so he can't help but fight with Luke Vi Tam. Seeing she can't stop the two, she threatens him that if he doesn't stop, she'll kiss the other guy. He's furious that she dares to treat him like this for another man. Letting him go, he runs to kiss her because she belongs to him. Then she follows him, not forgetting to buy instant noodles. She says food can bring happiness to people. Before, she didn't have a sense of taste but still felt very happy because satisfaction comes from the stomach. Suddenly the phone rings. She happily says his taste is still there, scaring her to death. Then she jumps into his arms. Unconsciously, the two go home, trying not to sleep, afraid their taste will disappear if they wake up. In the end, Ha Bat Tai still falls asleep. Her best friend picks them up early for the competition. Reporters are waiting when they arrive. Inside, Ha Pham does a great job behind the scenes. He steps in and tells the students to take out paper and start copying down what he says. At the start, the chief editor sees that Luke Vi Tam seems a bit arrogant today. The result is very successful. The score difference is quite large, making Mok Xian Fong a bit scared. As expected, he once again regains glory for his career. The host announces the winner, and the entire audience erupts in cheers. She happily shouts in celebration, and they hug and spin in front of everyone. She praises him for a great job, and he announces to the reporters that he will leave the wine-tasting industry. Everyone is surprised by Vi Tam's decision. He then treats everyone to a meal to thank them for their support. At the event, the drunken god amazes everyone by drinking without getting tipsy. She goes to the restroom and gets lost in a dark room, a consequence of falling into a wine barrel and hiding behind it. In her mind, the haunting song plays, and the senior arrives in time to hold her. Luke Vi Tam feels sad seeing this scene. Before leaving, he asks Dike Bak Dao if he likes her. He doesn't directly answer but says he returned because of her. The two walk home together. She suggests that since their senses have returned, they should cancel their contract. Her job is done, and she doesn't need to revolve around him anymore. They toast to her having paid off her debt. The following days, there are no more deadlines. Congratulations to him for no longer being bothered by her. Luke Vitam tosses and turns, unable to sleep, and she's not much better off. He sits up, turns on the light, and opens a drawer. He sees her items and remembers the moment she stuck them on him. With a heavy heart, he puts them back in the drawer. The next morning, Ha Bat Tai packs her suitcase and leaves. Before saying goodbye, she thanks him for his patience over the past time. He pretends to be reading a book but is actually thinking about whether to stop her or not. The senior is already waiting outside. He asks her if she has any plans or if she wants to work at his bar. Luke Vitam walks into her room, her image constantly on his mind. The wine factory, because it only sells expensive wine, hasn't been very profitable all year. If this continues, the Rose Wine Factory can't keep operating. This is his mother's years of hard work. It must continue operating no matter what. When he tastes the homemade wine, he finds the combination of fruit and rubber tree barrels harmonious. The wine has a full taste, strong texture, delicate, good acidity, and decent aging potential. In general, this wine is quite good, but its price is absurdly high. Remembering her words, he thinks of a solution. Previously, the Rose Wine Factory only sold high-end wines, but the domestic market lacked recognition for premium wines. They needed short-term profits. They couldn't change consumers' perceptions, but high-end red wine was the factory's specialty. They needed to preserve it but reduce production, raising the evaluation of the wine's quality. Suddenly, news broke that before he became a wine-tasting expert, he secretly managed a wine factory. This led to a series of challenging questions from reporters for Luke Vitam. He decided to tell them the truth, ask for forgiveness, and respect their judgment. Mia intentionally changed the original article, making him very unhappy. He hoped that his article in the magazine wouldn't have any mistakes. Perfection was not his demand but a standard of truthfulness as it had always been. From that day, she started working at the senior's bar. Today, the senior invited her to a luxurious place for a meal, making Ha Bat Tai feel uneasy. She admitted that she couldn't taste whether the food was good or not. But she had gotten used to eating without tasting anything. Upon hearing Luke Vitam's wine was banned, she was surprised and immediately searched online for news about him. Seeing her so focused, the senior coughed twice and asked if she hadn't forgotten him yet. She blushed and denied it, saying it was just because he helped her pay off her debt, so she still felt indebted to him. Hearing two people nearby discussing Luke Vitam, saying his public image had collapsed, they guessed he wouldn't recover this time and found it very tragic. As their comments became increasingly rude, she threw her plate on the table and confronted them, saying she had never met men as gossipy as them. She then apologized to the senior, saying she had to leave. Ha Bat Tai called and asked Ha Pham to meet her at Luke Vitam's house immediately. She scolded him for not telling her about such a big issue, and he argued that she said their contract was cancelled. After knocking for a while, he still didn't open the door. He only opened the door when she mentioned Ha Bat Tai, but quickly closed it again. She went to his boss demanding the 2 million yuan Luke Vitam paid to clear her debt. He frowned and asked where she thought he would get that money. Then she was carried out by his men, still begging the boss for another chance. This scene was witnessed by Daik Nam Ka, who happened to be passing by. While working, Vitam's assistant brought him bad news. This month, the return rate for Mannat Winery had reached 70%. Additionally, some old customers cancelled their 6-month contracts, and this year's new products had no profit. The funding situation was very grim, making it difficult to keep the Rose Wine Factory running. It could only hold on for another 6 months. His taste suddenly disappeared again, meaning Ha Bat Tai's taste had returned. He didn't know how to solve the winery problem, but he smiled foolishly. Using this as an excuse to visit her, seeing his cheerful face, Uncle Ma thought both wineries were saved. He called her but got no answer, so he called his best friend Hak Dung to ask if she was with him. His best friend said she was working at the bar until after 3 a.m. Meanwhile, she was locked in a dark warehouse by Daik Nam Ka. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. She saw someone trying to kill another person. Then she remembered falling into a wine barrel as a child. He quietly approached her. He revealed his true nature as a killer, strangling her until she almost suffocated. She kept mentioning Daik Bak Dao, who was his twin brother. Gradually, his humanity surfaced, and he released her. At that moment, Luke Vitam arrived, punched him, and took her away. He remembered their father taking Daik Nam Ka and his brother to ride their favorite carousel as children. After the meal, their father would secretly give them each a candy. To him, happiness was family. He had been the happiest person in the world until one day everything changed. A few days later, Ha Bat Daik's father came and said their father could never return, giving them money to live on. After that, their lives became increasingly difficult. In high school, only one of them could attend, so they decided to take turns going to school. Because of this secret, they cut their hair the same way. He was left-handed but started practicing with his right hand to avoid being discovered. Gradually, they became more alike. Sometimes even their mother couldn't tell who was who. While he was adapting to this new look, Ha Bat Tai appeared. The first time he saw her, he found her annoying. After that, he did many things to bully the daughter of his enemy. His brother, on the other hand, helped her, which made Nam Ka very unhappy. His brother promised not to help her anymore and Daik Nam Ka agreed not to bully her. From then on, his brother started avoiding her, but Ha Bat Tai became his haunting spirit. This boy simply couldn't let go of his feelings for her. He worked hard at part-time jobs to earn money to treat her loss of taste. He wanted to confess his feelings on her birthday. In the end, he worked himself to death. She still didn't understand what had happened. Luke Vi Tam's concern and care comforted her. She couldn't sleep all night, and he stayed by her side, taking care of her. Luke Vi Tam's childhood friend also came back. This time she came as a representative of the WSA to investigate whether he had been running Vanat Winery illegally during his membership certification period. If any evidence of illegal activity was found, the association would punish him severely. He handed over all the factory records to her. Bok Tri confidently said that with her there, he didn't need to worry. Ha Bat Tai sobbed to her best friend, saying he had changed, transforming into someone frighteningly different. Her beautiful face was so tear-streaked that it resembled a bedraggled cat. The Daik Bak Dao she knew was incredibly warm and kind, just meeting him filled her with energy. With him around, everything was fine, but now it would be better if she never saw him again. Seeing her so sad and drinking heavily, Hatch Dung asked what was wrong. To help her vent, he took her for a walk along the beach, advising her to get more sunlight to absorb calcium. He also joked around to make her smile. Ha Bat Tai confided in him, and he sincerely comforted her without any teasing. Thanks to him, her mood improved significantly. Despite challenges from Luke Vi Tam, he refused to be outdone. He trusts the association to be fair. Moreover, this is a collective decision that should not harm individuals. Mia coming to question the editor-in-chief is quite unintentional. The bourgeoisie won't allow anyone else's livelihood, will they? To regain what's right, you can't stand firm in the company's position. Luke Vi Tam takes Bok Tri to inspect the wine cellar, where she breathes heavily. These days, someone keeps facing problems, right? He follows behind, saying he never escapes trouble. Then she demands to see the wine storage number 92, which has had its fire extinguished all over the place. They are repeatedly advised to do so then. However, he still insists on doing it, and she praises his action. Indeed, a true wine-tasting expert from Gusa. He truly said he would protect what is most important to him. The childhood sweetheart enters the house and sees a lovely girl, making her instantly jealous. Ha Bat Tai immediately explains that she is just an assistant. Bok Tri still fears the lovely girl will steal her man. Right after that, she declares her claim, not only as a WSA specialist but also as his fiancée and childhood sweetheart. Bat Tai can't stand them anymore and immediately grabs the crab from his hand. Unexpectedly, the other also wants to compete, wants to enter the kitchen, but gets pinched by the crab. She cries out in pain, and hearing the sound, he comes over to check. Then he ignores Bok Tri and holds Ha Bat Tai's hand to ask about her. Seeing this action, Bok Tri feels dissatisfied, thinking her hand is hurt and very painful. After saying that, she extends her hand for him to blow on it. Luke Vi Tam, reluctantly, blows on her hand and tells the two to leave so he can do it. At the table, she praises the crab wine pairing but is criticized as old-fashioned. Bok Tri says if she is Luke's assistant, she must pass a test. She answers 7,749 questions correctly, but for the last one, she needs his help. Bok Tri says no matter how she answers, she will respond, and he just laughs silently. Not seeing him defending her, the childhood sweetheart turns angrily to him. The man in the middle just makes the wine and sighs. Mia comes to her with some things she thinks Ha Bat Tai should know. The person she meets now is not her senior, his name is Daik Nam Ka, the twin brother of Daik Bak Dao. In high school, they used the same identity because their father went missing and the family couldn't afford the cost for both. Daik Nam Ka thinks it's all her father's fault. She then remembers the missing person was her father's wine factory assistant. What really happened back then, Mia suspects the truth isn't as Daik Nam Ka said. The childhood sweetheart keeps clinging to him, making him uncomfortable. He subtly suggests if her work in Tan Hai is done, she should report back to headquarters, but she doesn't want to leave yet. Tonight there is a rare total lunar eclipse. She invites him to watch it with her, but he immediately says no. He says he's very busy these days and can't go with her. Something urgent arises, and he leaves her alone in the room. During dinner, Ha Bat Tai inquires about the Daik brothers' father. He quickly praises this person for being talented and very helpful. Unfortunately, now his memory is failing, and he can't remember anything clearly. She can't get any more information. He says people matter more than good wine. This makes her more certain that her father wouldn't do anything unethical to others. Luke Vi Tam goes to find Duk to pay off the remaining debt for her. He says Duk himself is in trouble, but still, he is in the mood to pay the debt for that girl. He didn't expect these people to care about his news. He says that's not the case. Last time, that girl came to him to ask to pay back the money. Now he realizes she was still managing money for him during a critical time. His heart warms, and upon arriving home, he pats her head. Lately, it's been very hard for her. On TV, the news talks about the total lunar eclipse, and she seems interested. He takes her to a place and buys a Kongming lantern for her to make a wish. It's said that wishes made during a total lunar eclipse will come true. But he forgets to bring a lighter, so she goes to a convenience store to buy matches. Few use matches now, so the shopkeeper searches and accidentally finds her senior's photo. It turns out he used to work here, but no one knows why he suddenly disappeared. He is very worried about her, calls her, but she doesn't pick up and hasn't come back. She excuses herself, saying she met someone and stopped to chat. They miss the total lunar eclipse. She shyly says that since meeting her, he seems to have become very unlucky. He replies that it is certainly the case. He's been playing the gotcha game but always ends up with red tiles. He tells her she's inherently good and shouldn't lose herself to oppression. Don't forget your worth because of anything. She suddenly feels her sense of taste coming back. They release the lantern, and she wishes to restore her taste. The next day, they try again. He lovingly kisses her, and this time both of their emotions are very complicated. The only option left is to find Daik Nam Ka and ask him to mix those two wines. He immediately refuses, saying he would rather not regain his sense of taste than let her take the risk. She then tells him that the person they are seeing now is not her senior. Hearing this, he resolves to keep her. That guy might do something outrageous. But sooner or later, they have to face these things. If they don't go, how will she restore her taste? After that, he goes to his room to find a way to confess to her. If one day I want to travel around the world, I could travel around you. It sounds so cheesy. He also feels this line is fake and can't show his sincerity. Why not just take her on a trip around the world? He has the money. Wanting to talk about love with her, he notes down this straightforward line, thinking she might like it. Downstairs, he is angry that she didn't call him for dinner. She says while eating that he came down by himself anyway. Seeing her give him food, he smiles and picks up his chopsticks to eat. This is the first time he has confessed to someone, so he's a bit awkward. While walking, he holds the umbrella for her, truly a real man. In the cold, he remembers to give her his scarf. And hearing the music, he says this piece was composed by the author for his lover. It said that when Lara was 11 years old, he already loved her, and then waited 7 years before deciding to be together forever. But their families opposed them. Yet through their intense love, they eventually got together. He asks her again, "Do you really have to meet Daik Nam Ka?" She nods and says she has to face many things. He still worries that she might encounter trouble, so he suggests they use his clever plan. They need to find someone to make him cooperate. The next day, they go to evaluate the new wine machine and see Bok try there. Unknowingly, she complicates things for Habat Tai, unaware of their exchanged tastes. Talking about the cost, everyone has their own opinions. Yet he agrees with her opinion, which makes Bok Try furious. Doing so would cause the brand to collapse. She mentions they are both students of a famous expert. Her suggestion must be very professional. But other factors must also be considered when determining the price, so further evaluation is needed. As for Daik Nam Ka, she thinks the most suitable person right now is Mia. She believes that someone who can make him reveal his secrets must be someone he trusts deeply. They arrange to meet her and ask for her help. Mia agrees, as long as it doesn't harm Daik Nam Ka. It turns out that the wine they want to find is Lahoa Bok, the wine that made Ha family's wine shop famous far and wide. On the way back, he gets angry because she insists on clarity. She simply explains that if they don't clarify their kiss as part of the job, people might misunderstand their relationship as being ambiguous. He's sulking and directly questions why can't they be misunderstood. Why must it be explained clearly? She denies any relationship with him. She doesn't understand what he's saying. They return home and see Bat Tai's father, who is asleep and just waking up. Thinking they were back to play tug of war, he asks about the other guy. She just says that he didn't come today. They try to exchange premium gifts for Lahoa Bok wine from her father. Thinking he has bad intentions, he promptly returns the gifts. For the Mid-Autumn Festival, Habat Tai reunites with family for dinner. She asks her father why her sense of taste suddenly returned. He laughs heartily and says naturally, when you recover from an illness, your taste returns. She then mentions that she was lucky to drink Lahoa Bok wine, so her taste came back. To her, Lahoa Bok is not just any wine, it is her good luck charm. Seeing the fireworks, she remembers her father taking them crab catching at the beach when she was young. The three of them were very happy together. She wanted to take a small crab home, but her mother reminded her it needed to return to its home, so the two of them released it back to the sea together. Just like now, she recounts that her sense of taste belongs to a friend. Since he lost his sense of taste, his work and life have become chaotic. Her father is the same way, living by emotions and easily moved. After dinner, she arranges to meet him outside her house, not forgetting to bring mooncakes. But since he can't taste anything, she tastes them for him. He smiles and says, actually, not having taste isn't so bad. She immediately disagrees. He turns to her and asks if she's feeling sorry for him. She shyly denies it, saying she's just pitying him. He confidently declares that Luc Vitam, even without a sense of taste, can still make waves. Knowing that brewing La Hoa Bock wine takes a year, they feel discouraged, as the winery can't wait a year to launch a new wine. Maybe fate's upheaval in his life is a turning point. If everything is related to this wine, then it must have been present from the beginning. She remembers when she first met him, he drank a lot of wine, suspecting it was the wine they were looking for. The next day, she calls Hafam over, asking him to help find the challenger from that day. She doesn't know his name. At that time, she didn't ask, but people around called him Mr. Lamb. Knowing that she used to drink like a fish, he can't help but forbid her from drinking like that anymore. With his popularity on the streaming platform, Hafam quickly finds the man. She asks if he still has the same wine they challenged each other with. The other guy quickly replied that she drank it all without leaving a drop. Doesn't she remember? The two had no choice but to seek help from Daik Nam Ka. Everything pointed out that there was a third person, the real culprit, who was still producing this wine. The only clue was La Hoa Sun Siu at the bottom of the bottle. The two quickly packed their bags and went to this place. Afraid he might get cold, she prepared lots of warm clothes. Seeing her worried about him made him feel happy. He said if he got sick, she could take care of him, couldn't she? The way someone looks while sleeping can be judged differently by others, but to the person who loves them, it looks very cute. Adjusting her blanket and seeing her sleep, he felt moved and wanted to kiss her. Early the next morning, the four of them set off to True District of Lin Nam. Unexpectedly, they met the newspaper team there. They found the right person, but he was not the one making the wine. This winery was usually very strict, not allowing outsiders in. The owner told them to wait 2 more days before taking them in. Meanwhile, they could buy some to take home. When booking the hotel, with only 2 rooms left, the owner suggested they share as acquaintances. The 2 girls could share a room while the 3 gentlemen could share another. To test the true nature of the hotel owner, they came up with a way to use werewolf to see his true character. Because she lost, she angrily stood up and left. Luc Vitam, worried, immediately followed her. It turned out she knew they were testing Van Trake, but no one told her. After a while of coaxing, she finally calmed down. While playing, she accidentally sprained her ankle. Initially, when he carried her, she demanded to be put down, so he dropped her like a sack of salt. Afterwards, he didn't hesitate to carry her like a bag and take her back. This romantic scene was witnessed by Bok Tri, who gritted her teeth, hating that she wasn't the one on his shoulder. Daik Nam Ka once again suggested the owner take them to the winery sooner, but he refused, saying he wasn't available yet. He said they needed to design the wine apparatus, and the path was not accessible by vehicle, only by foot. His health wasn't good, so they couldn't force him. They suspected he was trying to buy time. That morning, he saw him notify the winery to avoid complications. They needed to quickly find a way to get to the winery. To attract his attention, she asked Mok Xian Fong to give her flowers in front of him. She thought this would make him jealous. But he laughed it off, ignoring everything. Bok Tri couldn't stand it and asked why he was carrying Habat Tai. He explained that her leg was injured, but she still wasn't satisfied. Frustrated, she said she could walk on her own, making him angry. He just said, "I won't let you." Then he carried her straight ahead without looking back, leaving Bok Tri fuming. He took her back to her room and massaged her leg. A while later, his childhood friend came over again. Pretending to forget where she put a flower pot, she asked if he had seen it. He coldly replied, "Isn't this your room? I don't know where you put it." Then he told Habat Tai to rest in her room, unable to leave the mountain for the next few days. His friend angrily tossed the bouquet and confronted her. "Obviously you know Luc Vitam is my fiancé, so why do you still like him? Do you think you like him?" Bok Tri anxiously said that the way they looked at each other was like shooting arrows of love. She thought she had gotten used to it because she had been working with him for so long. Then his childhood friend came to her, wanting her to voluntarily stay away from him, thinking Bok Tri was simple-minded. Her mind raced, and she immediately came up with a number. Thinking she had figured out her rival's character, she couldn't help but want to get rid of her as far as possible. "How much do you want? I'll give it to you," she said, offering $100,000 on a check. But after taking the money, Habat Tai turned her back on her. "I have a contract with him, not with you. I'll take the money, you're too polite." He stood by, watching the scene, only to chuckle. She realized she had been tricked and angrily left. While observing the pottery owner, she accidentally broke one of his pieces. Surprisingly, the owner didn't scold them but invited them to a meal, as her accident had created a rather artistic piece, albeit chaotic. At the meal, she focused on eating, watching Bok Tri deliberately lean into his arms. She felt uncomfortable, and Mok Xian Fong deliberately added lemon to his drink and handed it to Vi Tam. Though he knew he had no good intentions, he still accepted the drink and drank it all. Finally, the boss takes them to the winery. Mr. Duong is already waiting for them at the gate. Van Trake introduces everyone to Mr. Duong. When asked about the pear blossom white wine, they learn it's discontinued. At that point, Vi Tam suggests taking another wine as a gift since they are already there. Then, they are taken to visit a room in the factory. Bok Tri can only sense the taste of these wines. They are both ordinary, containing stimulants, making their appeal questionable. Mr. Duong just laughs it off, not blaming the youngsters. Daik Nam Ka wants to smoke but the boss stops him. Smoking is not allowed here, be careful of starting a fire. This gives them an excuse to escape the boss's supervision. She quickly follows him with the excuse of going to the bathroom. The boss seems to know their intentions but does not stop them. Seeing the broken pieces, she tastes them and identifies pear blossom white wine. A moment later, Luke Vi Tam, worried about her, also uses the bathroom excuse to find them. Over there, she detects a familiar smell coming from a locked room. There are no windows either. Daik Nam Ka takes out his lockpicking tools and easily opens the door. This place is locked so tightly, there must be secrets that cannot be revealed. Seeing her taste the leftover wine on the broken pieces, it is indeed pear blossom white wine. Judging by the humidity here, it was destroyed not long ago. Mr. Duong is definitely connected to the incident back then. It is possible that his father was also harmed by him. They photograph and sample the wine, but someone outside locks the door on purpose. He is running around looking for them and hears her cries for help. He quickly runs over, looks around, and finds only bricks and stones. He uses them to try to break the door. Daik Nam Ka inside says it is useless and tells him to hide quickly. Surely Mr. Duong has already discovered them. If he is also caught, they will all die here. He accidentally overhears Mr. Duong talking to someone about dealing with them. He immediately calls 110, but before he can report, he is caught by the guards. He is knocked out. The high alcohol content evaporates into the air. There are no windows, and soon they will suffocate. Even a single match will spell their death. Their hope rests on Luke Vi Tam. They struggle to find a place to sit and share the wine. He fondly recalls his parents' love in his youth. Even a simple family meal made everyone happy. He wishes he could stay in that moment until his father disappeared, and his mother stopped caring. His mother took them to the Ha family's winery to find him. Later, his father gave them money, saying her husband wouldn't return, while his mother posted notices everywhere to find him. Not long after, she fell ill. In high school, he met her again. When others bullied her, his brother helped her. When they were almost out of hope, Luke Vi Tam freed himself and rushed to save them. She, afraid of implicating him, tells him to leave quickly. Despite his bleeding hands, he persists in breaking the door. Just then, Van Trake and Bok Tri arrive with the police. They save them just in time. Mr. Duong hurriedly books a flight to the US in a panic. He and his family escape. The police currently do not know his whereabouts. They return to Tan Ton to celebrate surviving the ordeal. They unexpectedly went through a terrifying experience. Without him, it would have been impossible. "You are the most useful bodyguard, Hatch Dung," she said. "If you hadn't brought him, we'd still be figuring out how to save people," she added. He refuted this, saying, "Am I the kind of person who holds people back?" Everyone nodded in agreement and laughed heartily. Bok Tri told Vi Tam he was returning to France and had booked the ticket. He would be leaving tomorrow. He replied with a subdued aha. Daik Nam Ka noticed Mia eating continuously and absent-mindedly. He couldn't help but tell her to stop eating since it looked bad. She retorted, "What's wrong with eating after surviving a disaster? Why do you talk so much?" Seeing her senior brother finally able to let go of his hatred and find someone he loves, she sincerely wished them well. Vi Tam asked, "Isn't that the senior brother you always longed for?" She smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if he's my senior brother. As long as he finds someone he likes, I'm happy for him," she added. He said, "Then you should also wish me well because I have found someone I like." Then he hugged her, thanking the heavens for bringing her into his life. The two went to work at the winery. If they didn't set a price soon, they might not be able to control the shareholders. After drinking pear blossom white wine, they changed tastes, but he could only sense a little. In the past, he would have given up on it long ago. When she saw him offering such a low price, she couldn't believe it. He said that only by having more people drink the wine could it become more well-known. He hugged her, saying he would name it Vibration because he wanted the drinkers to feel the same way he did. In the morning, he coyly asked her for a kiss. Cold as not she might be, he also had a cute side. She complied, and then they took a walk together. Previously, whether happy or sad, she would come here to relieve her emotions. He unexpectedly hugged her from behind. Now she knew Luke Vitam also had a romantic side. He pointed to a couple ahead and asked her to look at the girlfriend. She immediately showed displeasure. Then go and exchange girlfriends with them, she said. It turned out that couple was also family. They hurriedly separated. She mentioned she'd been here with someone else before. He got jealous and pulled her away. It turned out this was the place her first love often took her. She kissed him to appease him, and he kissed her back. They embraced each other lovingly. He arranged to meet his friend Hatch Dung and Hafam for an important talk. He wanted their help to prepare a proposal for her. They thought he had a fever. Hafam looked upset as his idol was no longer his own. Daik Nam Ka went to the police station to inquire about Mr. Duong. They said when the police arrived, they found he had committed suicide at home out of guilt, leaving all evidence uncertain. This disappointed him. Hafam noticed something strange about the neighbor opposite his idol's house, so he used his phone to zoom in and see what was unusual. He knocked on the door, found it was Mok Xian Fong, and dragged him in to question him. Knowing Luke Vitam had taste problems, he advised him to return to Luke Corporation to manage his father's business, which would also give himself a perfect ending. He should have guessed long ago that this person and his father were in cahoots. He prepared red candles and fragrant flowers to propose to her. Everything was romantically decorated by him. He pulled out a chair for her to sit down, then knelt in front of her and asked, "Will you be my girlfriend?" She doubted and asked if he was really proposing to her. "At least you should say something more. No one just blurts it out like that," she said. She wanted him to say something romantic, but he couldn't. "I heard you don't like northern guys." "Don't worry, I'll try speaking in Saganese." He said he liked her smile, her mischief, and even her temper. That's why he wanted to date her. He snapped his fingers, and a cart was pushed over, carrying a necklace placed on roses. He put it on her, saying it was a unique creation just for her. He also prepared fireworks, which she liked. She loved everything he did for her today and also liked him. As they say, to be romantic, you need money, gentlemen. Seeing them kiss passionately under the bright fireworks sky, I also felt quite sad, dear fans. On the way, she had a feeling someone was following them. Daik Nam Ka and Mia also became a couple. He didn't want to hide his past from her. He had fought and been in jail for 7 years. He felt he wasn't a good person, just a good-looking one. She came beside him, hugged him, saying the Daik Nam Ka she knew was afraid of girls drinking too much at night. For his brothers, he could sacrifice his life. She only feared the person she loved didn't know how to love himself. He wanted to give her a stable life, but he feared he wasn't good enough. She felt like he was trying to push her away. At home, Luke Vitam asked her if she had caused trouble with anyone recently, but she didn't know. He decided to report it to the police tomorrow, not forgetting to wish her good night. After taking his lover home, Daik Nam Ka also felt someone was watching him. It turned out the mastermind behind everything was Director Pham. He was one of 3 people who knew the secret formula for Lohoa Bok Daik wine. Nam Ka asked Bat Tai if she had been followed recently. She thought hard, not understanding how he knew about this. It turned out he was also being followed, and the common factor was Lohoa Bok wine. Mr. Duong's death was very strange. What's more unusual was that his family had now disappeared without a trace. There was definitely a conspiracy behind this. She went to find Duk to get information, only to find him tied up and beaten by Nam Ka. Unfortunately, there was no useful information at this place they were looking for. Not seeing her for a while, he started to miss her terribly. So he didn't hesitate to find her, informing her he had a match in 2 days. He promised he would win. She asked her friend Hatch Dung to take care of her father. As they were about to hug each other in thanks, they saw someone looking at them with piercing eyes. Van Trake entered the office but found no one inside. Just then, the phone on the desk rang, so he casually picked it up. On the other end, a woman kept saying that his father was a murderer. Van Trake sat at the table without any appetite, appearing lost in thought. His father thought the food didn't suit his taste. Van Trake asked his father why Uncle Duong died, but his father diverted the conversation. He said they finally had a chance to have a meal together, so could they not talk about such unfortunate things. After that, he went to Ha Bat Tai's house. After some probing, he felt relieved knowing that he had become senile. He tried to tell her a funny story to cheer her up, but it seemed a bit bland. She laughed at his silliness to make him happy. He told her she should smile more often, because when she frowned, she looked even less pretty. This guy was handsome and could say that, but single folks shouldn't use this approach. He assured her not to worry, he would succeed for sure. Finally, the competition day arrived, with 3 rounds. In the first round, each side chose someone to pick 3 wines for the opponent. The other person tasted and wrote details about the wine and its producer. They had a total of 15 minutes. Ha Bat Tai easily passed the first round. Mok Xian Fong unexpectedly lost to a wine priced around 100. This wine usually had no special characteristics. Chairman Luke clapped, congratulating him for finding his blind spot. His father had been away from the industry too long and didn't understand consumer tastes anymore. The two went to lunch and met Director Van. Only now did she realize how close he was to his father. He felt uncomfortable sitting near them and quickly stood up to leave. She went to greet Director Van and accidentally saw a scar on his hand. Van Trake, knowing everything, was locked up by him. In the second round, there were 101 glasses of wine. Both sides tasted the wine simultaneously, and whoever correctly identified 51 glasses first would win. The opponent submitted first, but she stayed calm and kept tasting. Her teacher anxiously awaited the results while he held her hand reassuringly. This time they didn't win, and father and son faced each other. His father told him not to waste his time, but he confidently believed he could do it. He reminded his father that he was the one who trained his taste buds. If he doubted his ability, he was also doubting his own skills. While reading documents, she dozed off. She dreamed again about the murderer from 20 years ago who killed Uncle Dyke, and had a scar on his hand. He took the phone and dragged Uncle Dyke's body to bury it. Witnessing this, she tried to run away. She woke up after falling into a vat of wine at home. In her nightmare, Ha-Bat Tai wondered if these were memories she had lost. She immediately called Dyke Nam Ka, saying she had something to tell him. She guessed that someone was buried under the old winery's grounds. Her sense of taste started to return after drinking Lohoa Bach. She often had recurring dreams and wanted to meet Dyke Nam Ka. Director Van pondered over this. When they arrived, they saw guards posted at the site. They didn't know how to get in, but she said she had a way. She used to work as a security guard and knew some industry secrets. The important thing now was that the winery's interior had likely changed a lot. It would take time to find the original location. Brother Duke created a distraction so they could sneak in. Using her memory, she found where the man had buried the body. After some strenuous digging, Dyke Nam Ka found his parents' wedding ring. He ordered them to stop and immediately called the police. He told them that his father, missing for 20 years, might be buried underground. Director Van arrived to see what was happening. He asked what was going on. She explained everything to him. An old colleague of my father at the winery. He questioned if he knew there might be a body buried here. Director Van reluctantly replied, telling him not to talk nonsense. He raised the ring for everyone to see, and then they were all taken to the police station. Ha-Bat Tai, while giving her statement at the police station, was so bored that she nodded off at the table. When Vi Tam arrived at her room and knocked, no one answered. Just as the two of them called to report that they might have found the body of Din Nam Ka's father. They are currently recording at the police station, and she asked if this competition could start a bit later. He just advised her to stay safe. The third competition is still the one they are most familiar with. After they taste the wine, they must write down relevant information. The one who writes more will be the winner. His conscience cursed himself for not tasting other wines, just sticking to this one. There are flavors that even if lost, should not be forgotten. He looked at his father with a puzzled expression, recalling his first lesson, to do one's own thing well. Later, when he grew up to become a tasting expert, he would understand. Once released, they quickly made their way to the competition venue. He found everything too coincidental and expressed his suspicion to Director Van. On this side, when the opponents finished writing, Luke Vi Tam began to record the results. In the end, Team Mok Xian Fong won. When she arrived, the competition had ended, but both had gained something valuable. It was good for her to return. He planned to meet with his father tonight and told her not to worry. He always made her feel safe and reassured. As she drank, she met Mia again, recalling their first meeting in similar circumstances. It felt like it had just happened yesterday. She told Mia that perhaps things weren't as simple as they had thought. She sighed deeply, understanding why he couldn't let go. I shouldn't have advised him to give up. Speaking of Luke Vi Tam, she always blames herself for arriving late, causing him to lose. But because of that, Mr. Luke feels his son is still very passionate about wine. It's been a long time since the two of them had a meal together. He set down his utensils and agreed to do whatever his father wanted. But his father told him to do whatever he liked. Remembering when his mother was seriously ill and near death, his father was nowhere to be seen. With her last breaths, his mother gave him many instructions. When the medical device no longer showed a heartbeat, he cried at his mother's passing. By the time his father returned, it was already her funeral, and he resented him and angrily left. He asked his father if he loved her. His father replied, of course. Mentioning Ha-Bat Tai again, he smiled. His father said that years ago, his mother also liked his pear blossom white wine. Last night, the police found a body in warehouse number 9. When Dyke Nam Kang heard the news, he immediately went to identify the body. Meanwhile, Luke Vi Tam and Bat Tai are engrossed in playing chess. She keeps asking him nonsensical questions that he doesn't know how to answer properly. Today, their house is bustling again. Ha Fam comes over to watch them flirt, and Mok Xian Fong also comes to talk to him. Seeing Ha-Fam chattering and disturbing them, she immediately drags him away. He worries about his idol being bullied at home while being pulled away. Suddenly, a burly man comes up to them, saying Mr. Liu wants to see her. Knowing her future father-in-law wants to meet her, she feels a bit nervous, swallows hard, and composes herself. He only sees Ha-Fam returning and asks where she is. Knowing his father took her away, he anxiously stands up. Mr. Luke asks if they are together, and she honestly replies that they are. He then says that being with the heir of the Luke family is not easy. She says he is a child who says one thing but means another. That Tai is surprised that he knows about her family's winery. She wants to ask about the past, but he doesn't know what happened. At that moment, he arrives to take her back. She smiles and bids Chairman Luke goodbye, promising to visit him when she gets the chance. On the way home, he asks what they talked about, and she says nothing much. The police compare the DNA sample provided by Daik Nam Ka last time with the Z-code found in the factory. It's likely his father who disappeared 20 years ago. Now the police are collecting evidence to identify the culprit. That Tai wants to put rabbit ears on Mr. Luke, but he refuses, so she angrily walks away. To cheer her up, Mr. Luke voluntarily puts on the rabbit ears. He looks so adorable now that she finds it very amusing. They say he's a shark outside, but a fish at home. At night, she gets up to eat because she's too hungry. Hearing noises downstairs, he immediately goes down. He asks where she got the hot pot from. She awkwardly smiles and says they have always been in the house, he just didn't notice. She says being on time is better than early and invites him for a late-night meal. The next day, she goes home, and it's lunchtime when her best friend Hatch Dung is cooking. She hadn't realized before that he not only has a six-pack but is also a chef. Her father is playing chess with her uncle, and now it's time to go back. From Director Van, she learns that the one who bought her family's winery is Mr. Luke. She pretends nothing happened and tells Hatch Dung to continue eating at the party. She sees Daik Nam Ka and Mia seem to have something going on. Kindly, she asks him like a close friend would care about the boss's affairs. She says she would remember even if beaten to death. He has found out about his background and where he lives. All his family members have disappeared. He asked the neighbors when they went missing. It was the day after he feared guilt and committed suicide. He always felt his father's death wasn't that simple. The more she speaks, the more terrifying it becomes, involving many things. He fears for the safety of his loved ones. Everyone wonders why there is a hint of white wine flavor in the red wine. Finding it strange, everyone decides to investigate. She opens a bottle of wine and smells it, recognizing it as pear blossom white wine. She looks at Vitam, and both seem to understand something. Daik Nam Ka questions him, saying he should explain what this is about. Why does the Luke family's winery have this kind of wine? Why would the boss feel guilty enough to commit suicide over producing fake wine? There's a big secret behind his death. Someone with great power doesn't need him. When it comes to power, everyone knows he suspects Luke Vitam of being the informant for his family. After piecing everything together, she understands everything. After realizing everything is related to the Luke family, she feels very hurt. Then she doesn't say much and drinks an entire bottle of wine. Her face is full of tears, he feels like a joke and doesn't know what to do. She steps forward to kiss him, their tastes merge, and everything falls apart, leaving him alone. Van Trake is hospitalized by his father, and his condition has worsened. He refuses all food just to be let out. He explains that he knew Mr. Duong was cutting funds in some areas, but he didn't expect he would dare to do it, didn't expect him to think of suicide. He says his son, weak since childhood, often recuperated in the mountains, always kind-hearted. Simply, he was just afraid his son would suffer losses. Knowing his son is soft-hearted, he strikes a psychological blow. He said don't do that anymore in the future, and he didn't hesitate to agree. They stood by the river, in the same mood, talking. He now truly admires her. Thinking she might be blinded by love, but surprisingly, she remains clear-headed. She said she returned Vitam's sense of taste not because she no longer loves him, but because she was angry at his secrecy. Even though she knows past grudges shouldn't be blamed on him. She sighed, blaming herself for not remembering many other things. Darkness and submersion in water seemed to trigger subconscious memories in her. Meanwhile, Luke Vitam questioned Mr. Luke. Why did you want to buy the Ha family's winery back then? He said it was because his mother loved the pear blossoms there. At that time, he had also met her, and they had a quarrel, almost knocking down their stall. According to him, all the evidence pointed to Director Van. Then he received a call from Van Trake, asking him to pick him up and take him home. He said his father had people follow those too, and said it was out of concern for him, but Van Trake didn't believe it. He then told the story of the two his father targeted, even though there was no evidence confirming he did it, but everything points to him being the mastermind. To evoke her memories, they only had to keep her in the dark. When the lights went out, the singing resumed, and she struggled in the wine vat. This time, she remembered everything. Once, accidentally entering the brewing place. She heard Mr. Van try to steal the recipe, but Mr. Dyke stopped him, pushing him against the wall and injuring his hand. He waited until the person was on the phone, then silently killed his friend with an iron bar from behind. And she saw the whole scene. Mr. Van hid the victim's phone and dragged the body outside to bury it. She followed and saw the victim's hand still moving, which terrified her. She dropped the candy stick and ran away. The one who did nothing to save a life wasn't anyone else but him. After remembering everything, she stumbled outside. She told him everything she saw, recalling that when she met him, she saw a similar scar. Mia's brother arrived, saying his sister was kidnapped. When Nam Ka arrived, he found her just bathed and realized he had been tricked. He suddenly realized Habat Tai might be in danger. When she got home, her father was unconscious, and Van Neem came out from inside. Knowing she recalled everything, he ordered the bodyguards to seize her. Vitam sensed something was wrong and immediately drove to find her. When he entered the house, it was empty. Her phone was soaked in water, leaving only the numbers 87 on the table. Hatch Dung was very angry when he couldn't protect himself, so they asked Hafam to find that license plate online. Luckily, they found it quickly, and he couldn't wait, driving to that address. Both father and daughter were tied up in a warehouse. Van Neem took off the gag to talk. He didn't want it to be this way, he originally wanted them to live a good life together. There was no other choice, who told Habat Tai to remember everything. After taking off the gag, Habat Tai asked him to release her father. He doesn't remember anything. Aren't you afraid of retribution for doing this? He is cruel and insane. If Van Trake found out, he wouldn't forgive him. He mixed 2 vats of wine together to do something when Luke Vi Tam found his car. He ran around looking for her. Seeing Habat Tai not cooperating, he slapped her. Even the necklace he gave her fell and shattered. But it was this that helped him quickly find her location. Van Neem used a wet cloth to suffocate and spread it across the floor. Luke Vi Tam couldn't persuade him, so he risked his life, being thrown into a sack by Van Neem. Luckily, the lighter was broken, and while he was distracted, Luke Vi Tam fought back, saving her from danger. Knowing he couldn't win, he tried to escape but was caught by Dyke Nam Ka, who wanted to kill him to avenge his father. At that moment, Van Trake arrived and stopped him from intervening further. Seeing his son, he wanted to explain but didn't know how. The police arrived and arrested him. The thing he regretted most was his son. His whole life, he created so much trouble because of him. When Luke Vi Tam opened his eyes, he saw Hafam beside him, worriedly asking how he was. Habat Tai came in with noodles for him. He was injured saving her, making her very sad. He wished if the injury was on himself, he would feel pain. But if she was hurt, not only she would feel pain, but he would too. Seeing them act like that, he couldn't eat his meal. Thinking back, she truly failed in his life. After meeting her, he was indeed unlucky. He purposely sighed, saying she finally realized this, making her speechless. After that, both families met. Mr. Luke was very happy after so many years. It wasn't easy for them to meet again. Her father brought a bottle of newly brewed Lahoa Bach as a gift. Then, the 2 old men got drunk but still wanted to drink more. Vitam asked if her father liked drinking so much, why didn't they think about reopening the brewery? He held her hand and said he would support whatever she wanted to do. It's great to have him by her side. Habat Tai leaned in to kiss him but was dodged. She thanked Lahoa Bach for bringing him to her. Then she pulled him closer and kissed him on the lips. They organized an outdoor wine party with friends. Now, Habat Tai's sense of taste had gradually recovered. Luke Vi Tam's loss of taste due to a nervous disorder was also cured. They would both protect their taste well. People around them felt it was overly sentimental. They toasted together to celebrate the new year, and he warmed her up to keep her from the cold. He asked if she had any New Year's wishes to tell him. All her wishes had come true, so from now on, just having him by her side was enough. This year brought bitterness, sweetness, and hardship. Losing and regaining her sense of taste was a daily mountainous journey. Even so, neither of them ever gave up on themselves or each other. In the end, the doctor diagnosed her unusual sense of taste was due to falling into the wine vat, causing damage. Luckily, there was Lahoa Bach and him. Thanks to the encounter that evening, fated to meet by the arrangement. People say that everything in this world is arranged by heaven. If in love you break up, it's because heaven is protecting you. Don't be sad when you haven't found the one you love. The one who loves you will come when you need them most, at the right time. So keep striving to learn and become a kind and useful person for society, and happiness will come to you. Alright, the movie ends here. Please take 3 seconds to subscribe to support us. Thank you for watching our channel. See you in the next movie.